Here we go. This one's going to be pre-recorded. Obviously, it's not live. One, I don't want to hear people talk about my shirt and how wrinkled it is. Two, I know my mom would be on and she would see how wrinkled my shirt is and would be upset. So I'm just going to pre-record it and then it'll be live. And then I won't be worried about people saying how wrinkled my shirt is. Okay. So we're going to cover the story, the Conquistador Conquest, and I'm going to try my best to do two things this video. One, not call anything a chapter. Two, reduce the word So I have been able to change because my early videos for the last hunt, I was slurping a lot. And so I think I've got that mostly under control. Whenever I drink something, which now as I talk about it, my mouth is getting a little dry. But I think I've controlled the slurping. So let's see if with focus and dedication, I can control the ums. I just need to think of another word to say besides that one. Anyways, the Conquistador Conquest is a story we're going to talk about today. It starts on page 28. And I don't have that much for this story. There was a lot in the last couple stories, but I'm okay with that. Because there's like 48 stories or something like that. I think that's what we counted. 48 stories. And going off of Justin's interviews and what he's put on the website, I don't think there's 48 clues, right? And clues are hints of the same thing. That's what Justin says. So I don't think there's 48 in the book. Said it again. All right. It's going to take a little while. Bear with me. But I'm looking at the range of just the way he answered the question when, I think it was K-Pro was the one that asked him. I just get a number of, I don't know, between under 20, right? I think half of 48 is 24. I think round down a little bit. So I think 20 is kind of high side of stuff we're looking for in the book. And I think 20 that's a conservative. I think that's very high. Me personally, I'm thinking of maybe a dozen, because again, the poem is designed that it can be solved alone. And Justin said a few times that someone can solve it in a vacuum, right? It may be tough, but it's possible. If there's like 30, 40 clues in a book, there's no way you're solving it in a poem that has 10. Right? And thanks to Jenny, excellent question. He answered it. There's 10 clues in the poem. So how can there be more clues in the book? Me personally, I'm thinking more like 12 to 15, and that's a little bit high for me. But to be conservative, I don't mind looking for a little bit more than what's there. So 20 on the high side, 5 to 7 on the low side. All right, maybe that sweet spot of a dozen to 15 things in the book that are clues, right? And if we're tracking the order, this isn't something I made up. This is what Justin said in Calazar and K-Pro's interview. The Netflix points you to the book, right? So the Netflix doesn't point you to the poem. The Netflix doesn't point you to, it's not a standalone clue. The Netflix points to the book. That's why I like when people call out little things in the background. And right, Justin said, he put out all kinds of stuff and he had no creative control over it. So he had to take the possibility that, Netflix, and I think, what's the word? They told him to pound sand. I forget how he said it, but, right? So in my mind, I like the theory that there's little things in the Netflix doc messing with the hands, the little lock, the urn, the dog, small little things, right? The pictures, the monitors that point to sections in the book. And those are the sections that the clues are in. Because we don't have a number of things in the Netflix doc. We don't have a number of things in the book, but we do have a number of things in the poem, 10. So it's kind of like one of those math problems where, so this is tough because from my limited, I'm not a mathematician, right? But most of the problems I solved with a variable would be, you'd have two sides of the equation and the variable would be on one side, and you could do stuff and solve it, right? So this is kind of an equation where we have two variables and only one number, which is kind of the other way around. You normally want two numbers and one variable so you can get it down. So now we have one number and two variables. So it's not an exact equation that we can solve, but I think we can make some educated guesses and some deferments, because, is that the word, deferments? We can defer, we can, I don't know, that might be the wrong word. But if, in my mind, if the poem that he said took 4 to 6 hours, right, on my interview that we just did, I think it's the last video, 4 to 6 hours, then on the poem that has 10 clues, I know the book took longer than 4 to 6 hours. That's a no-brainer. But I don't know if he would put 10 clues in the poem and then way more than 10 in the book. It just doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But, I don't know. But I'm erring on the side of caution, right? I'll look up to double. I'll look up to 10 times 2 and 20. I'll look up to 20. I ain't looking for 48. That's ridiculous. But, you know, if I look for maybe one thing per chapter, right, which is kind of like the thing I'm trying to do, one main takeaway per chapter, and at the end we have 48 takeaways, and then we look through that and see, okay, which one could be clues, right? Which one's a life story, life lesson, something he wants you to know about him, and which one is something that we can relate to a poem. I think that's a pretty good way to do it. And yeah, I think looking at the Netflix, how can what he did in the Netflix or what's in the background of his shots refer to the book, right? Not the poem. So that's kind of my thinking for how I'm going through this. Sorry, I got distracted of going through. That was supposed to be at the end. I was supposed to do the story first and then get to the Netflix poem stuff. But here we are. Okay, the Conquistador Conquest. So it starts out talking about again. At least I'm noticing it, right? That's something. Talks about his hobbies. You know, his brain is a deranged squirrel bouncing around. You know, really high energy kid. Half-baked projects leaving all around. Indiana Jones, good mention of Indiana Jones. But we do get some further insight. And on my interview, he talks about he used to do his own treasure hunts. One, he used to do a treasure hunt for himself, which is wild. That makes me think of JCB playing Dungeons and Dragons by himself. So maybe there's something in the minds of highly driven, highly successful, at least both monetarily successful, and big treasure hunt creators, right? At some point, they both play games by themselves. Hey, so if you're a young person and you're sitting down, you have no friends, and you're playing games by yourself, you could be a successful treasure hunt creator down the road. So there's a little bit of encouragement there. But no, you know, he did treasure hunts even for himself, but he also enlisted his brothers, right? So on my interview, he talked about he would hide stuff and then bring a friend over and go look for that with them, right? Or kind of observe them, which is what he's doing right now, right? He hid something, and then he invited a whole community to go look for it, and he's on the sideline watching. So funny how that, you know, he just kind of grew up and had bigger treasure and bigger friend groups. And yeah, I don't know, I just find that humorous. Okay, but you know, we see the adventure right there. A couple call outs for people who are still doing heat maps with locations. We get a little bit more of an area for Tucson. Before, he just said his mom lived in Tucson. I don't think we gave a direct area. Now we know it was in the Oro Valley, at least at that time. They might have moved around. Interestingly, if you look up Oro Valley right now on a map, I use Apple Maps, you'll see a Conquistador golf course like in that same neighborhood. It's like a pretty big neighborhood on the north side of Tucson and very close to the desert. So I can literally see if he's in one of those houses in the outer rings or even the second ring, just walking 5 minutes and you're in the desert. And you're in like the Tucson desert, right? Which is like fun as a kid just to imagine about, but as a parent, like a little bit, I'd be nervous, like just letting them just wander out there, going for hours at a day. But you can easily see, just look on the map and you can follow his story. You can see, I don't know if he says which direction he took off, but because Oro Valley is on the north side of Tucson, as long as you avoid the highway going north, you could kind of go like northwest, northeast, and it's just open desert for miles and miles and miles. So you could easily picture him doing that. We hear a little bit about Uncle Hiram. I've heard some people mention Uncle Hiram. The big thing for me, this is like my big call out I wrote for this chapter, is the picture. All right, because up until this point, almost every picture has been pretty closely related to the text on, if not the page, in the story. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. But this one, it's got his brothers, so that's related, right? But it's the Oregon coast, and the story's not in Oregon. So, I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. First mention of a state outside of like the American Southwest and Montana, we have Oregon. So if you're an Oregon person looking at Oregon, this is the page for you, page 29. Check that out. I read it a couple times. Didn't really see anything more descriptive of where in Oregon, but it does say in the picture. I'll show it to you. The picture, the description right here. Left to right, Mac, me, and Brandon along the Oregon coast. One of my most treasured memories. How about that, huh? Treasure. All right, moving on. Mom lived in Oro Valley at the time, and it goes out. We trekked through the desert to unravel the case of the lost conquistador's gold. This is the first of a few like treasure hunts that he either goes on or leads his brothers or leads his friends on, right? And then the rest of the story, I didn't really, I didn't look crazy deep into like metaphors and allegories and going really deep like that. Even though in the interview he talks about that's how he writes, he uses a lot of them, and his editor had to help him out with that. But I just didn't really see anything that really, I didn't make a lot of notes. I really didn't for the last like 3 pages. I wrote down the Three Stooges, Desert Adventure, Mom Angry, Came Back, Oasis, Uncle Hyber mentioned again, Conquistador, Ciphers, but yeah, I didn't, I thought it was a little weird he said run like the wind. I don't know if that's like a Lord of the Rings call out, or it'd just be a weird thing to say if like me and my 2 brothers and we're like, how old is he? Maybe preteens, and they're running back to the house, and I just I yell out, run like the wind. That seemed a little odd, but I don't know what to make of it. Okay, so that's that chapter. Again, not a lot of call outs there. The Conquistador Conquest, Conquistador Golf Course, how does it help? I don't know. I don't think he mentions golf very much. Doesn't seem like, I should have asked that. That would have been a question. Are you a golfer, right? We learned about Oro Valley. We can pinpoint a little bit more specific the heat map where in Tucson he lived. Really close to the desert. All right, now we get to the fun part. Me making predictions that probably won't come true about the poem. All right, so I went over the Calazars and K-Pro's interview a couple more times today. Mine was still pretty fresh. I've gone over it once, but I still cringe at hearing my own voice. It's just something about when you hear your own voice. So I'm going to take a day or two to process that and then go back and I'll do a video putting my thoughts and a brief analysis of what I think. Not a facial analysis. I'm not a truth teller, lie machine guy. I don't know. I think I'm a decent judge of character. I don't know, but I've had some bad relationships that didn't work out in the past, so that might point out otherwise. Not my current one. My wife's amazing. If you're watching this, well, even if you're not watching it, you're still amazing. So I don't know. Maybe she'll watch it. Anyways, okay. Oregon Coast, Oregon Valley, yeah. So call outs from the first interview that Jason did. So hints and Netflix got you the book. I wrote that. I think it's in a warmer state. I really do. I keep thinking about why he made such a big deal of the 9,000 miles, and then broke it down into 2. Like in my head, I'm like, why? I haven't heard of a treasure hunt creator that's done that. That says, hey, by the way, when I did my treasure hunt, this is how far I went, and then to come back 2 days later and say, actually, it was 2 trips. It just seems like a little bit of mind games there, a little bit of playing coy, because. So if Justin didn't say, let's game this out. This is the fun part for me, like doing these little mental exercises, doing running simulations in my brain. So if Justin didn't say anything about how far he went, and we read this book, and there was the map, almost everybody would assume it's got to be in either Montana, Arizona, or New Mexico, like maybe Washington. It has to be, right? If Justin never said how far he went or anything like that, right? And then now that he did say, oh, by the way, I went this far, now people are thinking, like, before the book came out, people were thinking, oh, it's got to be Alaska, right? He threw us off. He went so far. He went deep in the woods, all that. Now, as of today, we know that mile from the road. We know he had a broken tibia. That information was new, not at least. I don't think that was public. I don't think a lot of people knew that. Broken tibia, mile from the road. Those 2 make sense. but we still have the 9,000 or 4,500s times 2, right? What's the deal? What can we infer from that? What can we? I mean, that mileage alone is enough to cover, you know, all over the West. So I mean, so what was the point? That don't look close, don't stay close to the places that he mentioned because it is there, or hey, I'm trying to give you a hint. It's really far out from the places I mentioned, but why are they so far? Why are they mentioned so up? I don't know. That's a mind game, which I think might be the whole point of saying that. We talked about the numbers. Again, most of these notes, I got ahead of myself and I said it in the beginning of the video. Again, at least I'm noticing. Clues, so the Netflix is supposed to lead you to the book. The book is side by side, helps out with the poem. Because again, it's not like if you had the book minus the poem, you could get to the treasure. Like, that's never been alluded. I don't think that's even on the table. So it has to be the book points to stuff in the poem. That, in my mind, that has to be that way. So anyone who's, if you're building a solve where you're just using stuff from the book and you can't find the poem, probably need to go back. Same as if you're building a solve with stuff you find or see in the Netflix doc and you can't find it in the book and the poem, probably need to revise that. That's just my thinking. That's how I read it. Again, 10 clues in the poem, which is really huge. I think we can dig on that a little bit more. So, right off the bat, because I'm a simple guy, I see that there's 5 stanzas, 4 lines, that's 20 lines, 10 clues, boom, 2 stanzas per clue, right? And then if you read it that way, almost every 2 lines seem to be paired. Can you find, I'm reading the poem now, can you find what lives in time flowing through each measured rhyme, right? Because there's a comma there, so that's a complete sentence. 2 lines is 1 sentence. Can you find what lives in time flowing through each measured rhyme? Like, that seems like it'd be 1 clue. Wisdom waits in shadowed sight, hyphen, for those who read these words just right. So that's another sentence. So it looks like, let me just go through and double check. Yeah. Every 2 lines is a complete sentence. So if you do it, each sentence is a clue, I think that could be something. The only caveat is early on when, I think Mike was the one that answered this question, Calazar, his alter ego, I hope I didn't give that away. But he said that, is each clue one thing, right? I forget how he said it. I should have wrote it down. And Justin was like, you could say that. And Mike was like, that's a clue. So it means that some of the things can mean 2 things, which it makes sense. You wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket with the price of eggs being that they are. But you wouldn't, I think it's a good general rule that, okay, every two lines is one clue, mostly. There might be something in here that's double, but for that to be the case, there'd have to be a line that there'd have to be 2 sentences that mean something, because if there's only 10, right? And then someone can double check me in the chat in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that if there's just 10, so if you have 1 sentence that means 2 things, then there'd have to be 2 sentences that mean 1 thing, right? That's the only way they would work to get 10. Or 1 sentence that doesn't mean anything. It's not a clue. It's just letting you know. And that could be the last line, like a river's steady flow, what you seek you already know. Because if the second to last line, truth rests, not in clever minds, not entangled, twisted finds, if that's truth rests, if that's the final resting place that you're looking for, right? Then the line after that, it could just be it could be a nothing, that it's not a clue, the last line. And then that would work out, because that would mean something in here. It means 2 things. Just throwing it out there. Again, I'm not confident in this poem enough yet to put out a state. I think it's someplace warm. I think we're looking at the American Southwest, just going off of the heat map, going off of the book, going off of all the places. I don't think Arizona or New Mexico. If it is, it's not near a place. It's like pretty far out there. And there's a lot of desert spots in Arizona and New Mexico. Could be Nevada, could be Utah. I don't know. I don't want to start making guesses. That Oregon photo did raise my eyebrows a little bit though. And so last thing I'll close this video with is a few things rabbit holes that I found out that Not that I found out. I will say rabbit holes that I started going down. That might be something, or it might not. All right. So I did on my last video. I did the numbers right of syllables in each stanza. So this one I went down, and I'm sure someone's noticed it. I just haven't heard anyone say it yet. But the lines, they're all the same letter. So each sentence, the last word ends in the same letter. And I don't know if that's a rhyming thing. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think it. In order to rhyme, it has to have the same last letter. I think you can make stuff rhyme that doesn't have the same last letter. Because, so here's what I'm pointing out. If you look at the first stanza, the last letters, so EE and TT. Next one, TTEE. Next one, SSEE. Next one, DDEE. Last one, SSWW. So they're all pairs and they're all repeated. What made me look at that? Well, the last line of the first stanza, for those who read these words just right. Because this is what makes me like so excited about this poem and so like gung-ho about making videos and analyzing and putting it out there, is that like I'm getting excited. Everything Justin is saying is pointing that this is going to be solved sooner than later. I mean, there's only 10 clues. That's almost brute forcible. There's only 5 stanzas, 20 lines. Words can only mean a certain, well, I mean, okay, yeah, you could get creative with the words. But I feel like it's almost brute forcible. And it's the American Southwest, so I mean, you could just keep plugging in 10, trying to find 10 different clues, and eventually, I mean, you would have to get close to something. And there's a checkpoint in there, so that's even more, and for me, a checkpoint being in the mid means it's not the first, it's not the end. So now you've narrowed it down to 3. You have 3 stanzas, there's a checkpoint. That's almost brute forcible to me. I don't know. I say that now, watch us still be making videos like 2 years down the road. But I'm just pretty excited about it. It's infectious excitement. But yeah, so you can look at those last words and the last letters, and I messed around with them, writing them out, and didn't really get anywhere. Believe me, if I got somewhere, I wouldn't be saying it. But in case anybody else wonders if that leads anywhere, if you write them all out, you can make, these are all the, if you write the singles, because they're pairs, right? So, I mean, I guess this is true because they're pairs, so you could just double it. But you get stuff like Sweetest Ed, Detest CW, West, C West Ted. You get, what else? You get T So Dest, Wet Seed Teds, Wet Seed Set, Tweed Sets E. I mean, I don't know. It just seems a little silly. But, oh, this was the last point I was supposed to make. So going over, there's been a lot of talk about, Justin said that there was one technical thing in there, one this, one that. So I watched that a couple times. For me, what I got is that there's one cipher, a coded message. I know he kind of chuckled at the celestial thing and the star thing, which I think that might be a hint of a name of something. I don't think we're supposed to do celestial navigation. Like, I watched a couple YouTube videos. It seems insane. I don't think we have to be out there with our sextant, like, plotting azimuths and doing all kinds of crazy nonsense. Shooting marks at twilight. I don't think we're doing all that. But if there's something on the ground that's a monument, or that's a park name, or a street name, or something affiliated or associated with a constellation or a star, I can definitely see that happening. So I think that might be the tie-in. And I really think the technical thing, even though JCB avoided the word cipher, he nodded along and agreed with Mike when Mike said it. So I do think it's a coded message. That's what I think it is. It's some kind of code that he couldn't help himself from putting in. You know, I don't know. I came across the word cipher in the chapter today, Spanish Conquistador cipher, which I don't know if it's a real thing. Where did let me read that again. It said, should have highlighted it again. Spanish positions, but it's Conquistador. Spanish gold. Where's it at? Where's it at? Pause. Found it. It's toward the end, page 32. So thank you, Mom. I'm quoting the book. So thank you, Mom, for your eventual forgiveness, and gratitude to you, Arizona Desert, for your merciful restraint. But most of all, Thanks to Uncle Hiram for his enigmatic book of conquistador ciphers. Without you, we never would have learned that sometimes the real treasure is in Spanish gold, but the profound ability to appreciate air conditioning. So a little bit of humor there at the end. But there it is, first mention of cipher in the book, Conquistador cipher. Maybe find out if there's a famous Spanish Conquistador cipher, and then run it through the whole book. I don't know. You still have to find something to apply it to. Maybe the poem, right? Maybe certain lines in the poem. It might be something fun. Okay, I think that's... Oh, in the language Esperanto, right? That was another thing I wanted to call out, was he mentioned as a child he picked up Esperanto, so I don't know if there was a lot of E's and S's and T's in those last letters. Maybe there's a word in Esperanto. I don't know if that would be the code or whatever, but all right, that's enough for this video. Said again, but I think the count was down than I normally do. We'll keep working on it. Yeah, that's it. All right, bye.
Now listen, all you treasure hunters, searching all around for plunder. Do you need some help to be your best? There's something that you're trying to find, but you're about to lose your mind. So come on, listen in to Este's Quest. Este's Quest, the show where he'll be sharing clues. Este's Quest will chase away your searcher's blues. He's solving puzzles with a smile. He'll help your theories pass the trial. He's welcoming you here to be his guest. Now listen close and you'll be told the clues to where he's hiding gold. So come on, listen in to Este's Quest. Come on.